So I'm just going to give a really brief overview and introduction to some of the work that we've been doing. Then we'll have an abbreviated panel discussion. Everybody's just going to talk for a minute or two about their experiences in the work that we've done and some of the next steps. We planned for action planning based on some of the sustainability science model that you saw and the work we've been doing, but again, just point you towards getting some ideas up on the wall that we can think about for future collaborations. Our objective in coming here today and talking about the Frenchman Bay Partners is first to share our work within this region and the model that we've been using, but we also know that there are similar efforts that have been going on in the Madomic, down in Freeport, St. George. So we also want to hear from you and what experiences you've had, what you've learned, and how we can learn from each other better. There's a lot of work to do. So I'm assuming you all know where Frenchman Bay is, but just in case you need the locust map. It's sandwiched in between Mount Desert Island and Squid Peninsula. We're in the gateway to down east. Frenchman Bay Partners is composed of a long list of groups and individuals, schools, universities, centers, organizations, state government. We have municipalities that have signed on, a host of businesses, councils, and commissions. And today we're going to be highlighting some of the work that we've been doing with the Frenchman Bay Regional Shellfish Committee, which is a 7-town collaborative ordinance comprised of 80 commercial harvesters, about 200 recreational harvesters. Joe and Jim will be talking about that effort in greater depth. The Frenchman Bay Regional Shellfish Committee and the partners have a very similar mission. We've been working together to ensure that Frenchman Bay is ecologically, economically, and socially healthy and resilient in the face of future challenges. And we've been using a process called conservation action planning to advance this mission. And it starts with talking to a whole bunch of people about what the problems are, planning actions together, pursuing those together, producing solutions, but then always trying to learn from each other and share that learning back so we can improve our understanding of the problems as we go along and as the problems change. So as we've gone out, we've done interviews, focus groups, listening sessions, stakeholder meetings. We have identified several core focal areas, including eelgrass, working waterfronts, migratory fish, and benthic habitats, and we'll be talking about our work with mudflats and to a lesser extent eelgrass today. These are our target areas, our core focal areas. So we have a whole bunch of collaborators who've been working with us very closely on the mudflat target, including Hannah Annis from DMR, area biologist, Jane Disney, who couldn't be here today, but Anna Farrell is here from the MDIBL, myself, Jim Norris from Frenchman Bay Regional Shellfish Committee, Chris Peterson, College of the Atlantic, Joe Parada, also from the committee, and Allie Rohr. So they're all here, and I'll say a little bit. I just want to highlight our successes. They're going to talk more about these. We've developed this partnership network. We've adopted this concept of working the tides. And one of the things that we pay attention to is checking the tide charts. I think early on, Joe sent me an email saying, hey, when you schedule a meeting at low water, I can't come. So there's a literal checking the tide charts, just understanding what other people need to participate, but it's also figurative in understanding the diverse perspectives that people have and their needs for how they work the tides. In doing this, we've found a need to help resolve conflict between mussel harvesters, clam diggers, worm diggers. We've developed collaborative agreement between mussel harvesters and eelgrass restoration efforts. We identified the goal of opening all 610 acres of restricted flats. Stepping into this, we realized, well, how do we do that? Water quality issues that we need to address. DMR is really leading that charge, but there are also social issues too, and this is where the partners can come in and help build relationships and work with towns in ways that extend DMR's capacities. We developed an economics report. This is available on our website. It actually builds from the work that Kevin Atherin did that he described earlier. We co-wrote 2 successful grants to the Maine Community Foundation, raising $15,000. Initiating the 610 project, Green Crowd Control project. These allowed us to prioritize areas by abundance, ease of access, and the status of the problem forms, knowing what's going on, so we could kind of pick the low-hanging fruit and have some early successes. It also allowed us to help improve communication, just getting access to information out there in different ways, improving group process. We also now have a website, so feel free to check that out. We have a mudflat technical report on that side table too that highlights some of our work in the region. So what I'd like to do now is turn it over to the panelists. They're going to talk a little bit about what's worked, what this experience has been, what we learned in the process, which is kind of a euphemism for what didn't go so well, what we'll do differently next time. That's some of the most valuable information, I think. And then we also want to open this up so that we can learn from you, because I would imagine that some of you are engaged in similar efforts, and it helps to learn from each other. So, Joe, do you want to start off and we can just work our way down the line?
You can stay right there.
Yeah, so my name's Joe Perrotta. I'm the chair of the Southern Town and Shellfish Committee in the Frenchman Bay Area. Started the project for this Southern Town ordinance about 5 years ago, I think. Jim and I and a couple others were probably the most active in it. And holding 7 towns together to get this thing, keep this thing going wasn't particularly easy. And a couple of years into it, Bridie and Jane Disney and others started to show up at the meetings, and they became very instrumental in helping us do things like take minutes, help us get a broader perspective of the area. We started talking with another, like Prince Totten Bay. They were kind of a separate thing. We don't really work with them much anymore directly. But Bridie and Jane Disney helped us organize our meetings a little better. They started taking minutes for us, which nobody in our committee or group seemed to be good at or want to do. I do most of the talking at the meeting, so I didn't have time to write. So then now we actually, through their help over the past couple of years, doing meetings themselves, we now have someone that we hired with a small stipend. It's actually one of the clam diggers' spouses that's doing that for us now. They've helped a real lot in getting up a website now. I'm not sure how up and going that is, but I have really looked at it a lot. But we're putting meeting minutes on there now, which that never would have happened without the help of these folks. Also, we have a Facebook page that's developing as well, and they help up. I can't say help. They pretty much update it for us on a pretty regular basis with the minutes and posting information on there. And I'll soon be putting up some closures and winter rotations that we'll be getting on those sites with their help as well. And that's just not the 610 and the 610 projects and grants that we've gotten with their help. They've helped identify and sort of confine some of the areas that we know are more polluted and need to be focused on to clean up. And then that goes to the DMR and DHHS and stuff. And at least we know where to look, how to look for it a little better. And that's been largely with the help of all the partners, and including Chris Peterson and Hannah and other folks who have tramped around the shores looking for these pollution sources. And I have to say that they've been this whole partnership, particularly with Bridie, have been a major help for keeping us on a good sort of conscious path, I think. And that's really all I have to say. I thank them very much. Thanks.
So hi, I'm Allie Rohr. I work for Department of Marine Resources, and I would just like to say that being a part of the 610 Grant Committee has been really quite helpful in terms of being able to openly display and describe exactly how DMR works when it comes to opening and closing, and the reasons areas are closed, and having an understanding of the difference between restricted and prohibited areas and what can be done about that. And through working with the group, it was really helpful for us to figure out their priority areas, the areas of high resource, and spots that we could spend focused time doing what we call hotspot surveying. So because of their interest and involvement, I became more aware of where to focus my time. And so we did get a lot of hotspot surveying done, so problem forms turned in when we do find issues so that the ball can get rolling, so issues can be abated and remediated. So I've really found working with the 610 Grant Group quite helpful. So I think it's good overall.
My name is Anna Farrell, and I work with Jane Disney at MDIDL. We do a lot of eelgrass restoration, and for those of you who don't know, eelgrass is a subtitle marine plant, and its most important function in relation to this is a juvenile nursery area for juvenile fish and shellfish. It also stabilizes bottom sediment and is a significant carbon sink, which is important with ocean acidification fishing in Frenchman Bay and generally in Maine. So the MDI Biological Laboratories collaborated with the Shellfish Committee and scientists and Acadia Aqua Farms and Maine Mussel Harvesters Association to restore eelgrass. And this started in 2007. Transplanted thousands of plants, but then, the disappearance just increased. So we're still working on that, and as we continue the work, we've gained more partners, like COA, College of the Atlantic, Maine Coast Heritage Trust, Lemoyne Conservation Commission, and we signed an agreement with mussel harvesters. Mussel harvesters agreed not to drag in areas of eelgrass restoration, and that's been helpful in getting some grants. But there's a challenge associated with that. Local agreements are not viewed as sufficient protection of restoration sites by federal agencies like the Army Corps. We actually got a $239,000 Army Corps of Engineers grant. They wouldn't release the funds unless the state was willing to guarantee protection of restoration sites, which the state was not. So there's a challenge there working between local, state, and federal levels. So next steps, we want to work with the state on a process for endorsement of local agreements and efforts to enhance marine resources through research and restoration using the Frenchman Bay Partner approach, which is addressing issues in a way that doesn't require top-down intervention or legislative action.
Hi, I'm Hannah Annis with the Department of Marine Resources. I'll try not to talk long. I think everybody's ready for it. So I'm an area biologist in the Shellfish Management Program, and a major part of what we do is work directly with the municipal shellfish programs and the shellfish committees. And so I was invited by the partners to sit on this advisory committee, and I looked at it as a logical extension of what we do, so I was happy to accept their invitation. And I think they did a really good job of forming this committee with a diverse group of people to really work on this effort. And I was just basically going to talk about the 610 because water quality closures are a big problem for all shellfish industry users statewide. So I think this was a really important and worthwhile project. And that being said, it's also 610 acres of closed flats. Trying to get that open is a substantial project. And I think that the committee really worked well, even though at this point we haven't got any of those acres open. The committee has really worked hard, and I think the efforts we're getting there. I think we're making a lot of good progress here, and I think that there is some light at the end of the tunnel. We're all hoping, at least. And but being a big project, I think there's been some frustration because it does take a long time. So it has been nice to have these other projects to kind of give us some level of success and achievement, and not get caught up on the frustration of how long this process can take to identify pollution sources, get them fixed, and get the information we need to get those open. So I really applaud. I mean, I basically acted as an advisor and happy to support, but I'm really impressed with the efforts of the group here. And the part that, I like to see is that this really has, I think, really formed a long-standing relationship and collaboration. And as many of you know, the shellfish committees are largely comprised of volunteer fishermen. And a project, especially a 7-town project, is a really heavy burden to bear. If you've sat on a shellfish committee, you know it can be a thankless job, and you're not getting paid to do it. So I'm really glad to have all these people come together and work on this issue, whether they're going to benefit from the clam flats opening or not. I think it's put a lot of attention on this issue. I mean, 610 acres, that's just the restricted flats. That doesn't include all the closed flats in the Frenchman Bay area. So I certainly applaud the efforts of everybody on this committee, and I was glad to be asked to be part of this. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Chris Peterson. I'm at College of the Atlantic. I'm part of the NEST crew, so the water quality stuff that you saw, the awesomely cool stuff that Kelly showed, and listen to the other stuff. I'm kind of at the other scale of that, and so I'm kind of the boots on the ground part of the water quality. And so when I first got involved with it, was the first 610 grant we got was to deal with water quality, which has been was initially frustrating, but I got to say, DMR has been awesome. The Lemoyne lab, that Megan runs in Alley, they've been really receptive. They've been looking at places where there's more resource to try to get open for us. But there are bottlenecks in that. To us, probably the biggest bottleneck is once those forms get turned into the towns, they kind of disappear. And so, like for me, trying to look at that stuff, it's probably looking at how towns fund their LPIs and how they get it through those kinds of issues. So we've been trying to do some work at just trying to understand those flow charts. If Brian's here, a few years ago, we actually did we did some brushing and some roughing and some adding adult clams to look at clam recruitment, and nothing did better than doing nothing.
Here you go.
Those weren't projected, but that was our take-home message of that particular study. Then we, after doing this first grant, it was really successful. We came back to the committee, and a lot of our work is trying to not just be scientists on some stage, but which is, I'm a scientist, and I'm interested in policy, but to come back to these groups and kind of go, what are you interested in? And so after the first one, we came back and said, do you want to do more water quality stuff? And this was the fall of 2013, so you know what they said. They said, we want to kill green crabs. And so the next grant we wrote was to buy crab traps. And we got it. The Maine Community Foundation gave us money for crab traps. And then what happened in 2014? Crabs didn't really come in, and the price of clams went way up, and a lot of our traps sat around. And so we're learning, and it's not always, it's a step forward, a little step back, but we're trying to do it. And so we're really, we're happy to be engaged. I love working with the local DMR. I like working, maybe not love, but I like working with Joe and Jim. We had a good time, and there's a lot of mutual respect on those clam flats. I know that they know things I don't know, and they know that I might be able to help them with stuff. And so that's what we try to do, and that's what we try to manage for this.
I'm Jim Norris, and I'm the idiot on this panel. In looking back, just before we set up the 7-town area, the Frenchman Bay Regional Shellfish, we used to get hammered up there bad. People coming in, we'd be the last place if there was a red tide. We'd be the last place that would be open. So we were getting people from the whole coast, and everything was going south fast. We couldn't do much. As far as digging goes, I mean, they were in here digging stuff that was undersized and everything. If you looked at the papers over the next year, you'd seen all the diggers that were taking small plant, anything to get to the market. We started this. We have a warden, and we do have to do more with the warden. The warden can't handle this up in the house by himself. He's doing a good job for what he's doing, but he needs help, and hopefully we can come up with a part-time warden or something along the line to help keep the people in line that are digging, and keep the people out of the region, out of the clam flats. We got a lot more work to do there. We have done a couple of really sensitive spots. We have a agreement with the mussel dragons. We're not trying to keep them from dragging, but if we have an area we're working in, trying to reseed or something on that line, they just can't come in and just plain drag everything off. And Fiona here has been active in the other side on the mussel dragons as far as getting this stuff ironed out. And basically, what we want is, if we're seeding an area, we don't want the draggers in there until the seeds got a chance to get deep. And also, we want the people that have what they call a wild crew, that are digging the 2-inch, not just the seed. We want them to come in and be responsible for the work. If they come in and do a good job, you're not going to see a complaint. If they come in and tear things up, then we have a recourse to come back and keep them out of it. That's conservation. So we're coming on it, and I think it's going to come together. We got a lot to learn. Included areas, long time to get anything done. I think one of the things we're gonna work on before too long is trying to streamline that, so that we can actually get something done. It's almost impossible nowadays with everybody that's in control, got their little piece of it. Several different organizations and agencies. It's pretty hard to try to get anything done. We've got to find a way to streamline. Thank you.
Yes, I neglected to say in the beginning that I don't think it's likely that none of us will be sitting here right now talking about our 6-town project and our 7-town organization partnership if the 7 towns around the Frenchman's Bay didn't fully support the program we have here. There's every year we have to go ask for funding from every one of these towns. I'm not going to go through them because I know I'll miss one or two of them, but every year, at every town meeting, we get virtually unanimous support for the program. And all the town meetings, it's all passes with, I've even seen applause for the program in a couple of town meetings, which is pretty neat. That's it, thanks.
So maybe a couple questions or comments? Yeah, in back.
Well, I see on your list was working waterfront access, and I'm one of the mussel farmers that grows them on rafts that doesn't drag. But one of the problems we have, of course, is unloading because of our harbor pier doesn't really work out, and the airport is not really that accessible. So we're going on and off of Lemoyne State Park, and I noticed they have the old coaling station pier on the eastern side of the park where they used to unload 100 million pounds of coal for the North Atlantic Navy. And that's a great opportunity for working waterfront access. So I was going to have a meeting with the Lemoyne Selectmen later this month, and if any people in your group are interested in joining that bandwagon, I think what we need to do is maybe have the state park sell it to the town of Lemoyne so that they can then get working waterfront funds because the state can't give the state money. But if there are people within this group, I'd love to work with them because I think access is really important for our fishermen.
Great. You have contact information on those sheets right there. Other questions? Yeah.
I see that you guys have all came together and worked well together. How does it work for the harvesters from each town? How are you guys doing with that? I'll get that to the job.
I'd say, with the 60 to 70 commercial diggers we have maybe 2 or 3 that are maybe feel antagonistic to the bunch. But I'd say overall everybody works pretty well together. We've got a couple people that think that the clams are theirs over in this spot, and why are you digging my clams? But that's really quite rare. I think mostly we seem to work together pretty good, even including with the worm diggers who were amongst us. So I think with very small exception, probably like 3 or 4 people out of those up to 70. We have no issues really.
Okay. Any suggestions? Try to get them to work together.
One
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, one thing I've always heard is when you get in a room with a bunch of different guys that do different fisheries, they can be really ticked off at each other, and then the last thing they always say is, "But I would not want to let them make a living." And so people always are wanting to kind of restrict, but then they always stop short of and I want to exclude you completely. And that's the opening to start figuring out how you can both make it there, because nobody wants to keep another guy from making a living, on the water. And but you want to try to figure out how to do it effectively. I wasn't involved. The mussel dragger, clamber, wormer group that they got together and tried to figure out how to, make certain places more accessible and less accessible and sign that agreement on a map. That was a pretty awesome thing. And as best I can tell, that's worked. It took time. The most important thing is it just takes a lot of hours. So you try to figure out times when you're not making money and you go and you meet. But it's not easy, and you have to have some good people around. And Bridie's been really amazing in that group in terms of facilitating that.
Yeah, I would add that, as a 7-town committee, there's 7 of us there that actually get to make the decisions at the meetings, but we pretty much put it out to whoever shows up to the meeting, which could be 5 or 6 people, so sometimes 30, but usually never the whole bunch. But we listen to the people that come there, and everybody gets to have a voice, and then we try to move forward with what the consensus is in that group, and then if we feel as a group of 7 who get to make the decision that that's the right way to go, we take the harvester's advice and try to go in that direction. So maybe that's the best piece of advice I can give you. So.
Which is a really core part of that idea of working the tides and just, being open and making that commitment to keep coming back, because it never really goes as smooth as you'd like it to. So we have several next steps. We want to keep working on our communication, because that's always challenging. Link up with the joint board as kind of an oversight board, doing some seeding experiments, developing collaboration with wormers. We have close to $500,000 under review right now for collaborative grants that we've written. If those come in, that would be pretty awesome. Exploring options for watershed surveys. We want to identify funds to direct funds towards landowners for fixing septics, and then ultimately just keep working on opening these flats, because that's a much longer term goal and commitment for us. And we'll skip that for now, but if you have other thoughts, things that you didn't get to air, please see one of us or jot those ideas down. And then my contact information, my product placements, and then we have the, again, those forms in the back. And thank you very much for allowing us this time.